Hi, she's Trixie, and I'm Sarah, and this is Our Yarn World, a place where we come to share the love of yarn crafts and all that gives us and what we hope it gives you. We're on episode 107 today, and we have a couple of fun things to share. Last week we were gifted a couple of fun items, and we were working on new methods to be able to do our crafts, and even we're just sharing with you some of the things that we're planning ahead on in our crafting. And we are excited to be able to show you what sort of week that has given us. So without further ado, Mom, would you like to show us your blocks?
Yes. The blacking blacks, or whatever they're named, are working out so wonderfully. And so all of them are the same size. I am so thrilled. I've got several of them here, and but I've got a pile. So
And they're all the same size.
yeah, and they're all the same size.
Does this kind of change your method?
It really does, because all I'm doing is wetting them down. I'm not even putting them in a tub or anything. I'm just wetting them underneath the faucet till they're completely wet. And then, and I don't wring it. I just kind of squeeze the water out all the way down. And then I put it on the blocking blocks and I pin it. And I use every single pin that's in here to get it to a square form, and then I let it dry for 24 hours. The next morning, when, you know, if I've got a couple of blocks here that need to be done, I just put another one on. I get another one wet, I put another one pinned on there, and I continue the cycle. Now today I didn't, because I ran out of blocks to put on there. I am working on this beautiful, I'm trying to pull the loop up because my hook came off, this beautiful red, white, and blue one. And it is so different from all the rest of them. It's going to really pop in this blanket. But I think that's what this whole thing is about, just making different variegateds all work together. And I think in my head, I'm making 20 of these.
Okay.
And so let me count. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm working on number 10 with this red, white, and blue one. So once I get this one done, I'm halfway there. And when I go to put it together, I can make the white around and the black around the blocks just as big as I want. And then I'll put it all together. Or I'll just zip them all together. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but these work out to be between, I think it's about 10.5 by 10.5 square. So having 20 of them should be a nice size blanket, even if it's just lap size, or, you know, what I consider just, you know, coming up to your chest so you can have a nice nap on your couch or whatever. Yeah, it's all going to work out. And I think this is new for me, but I'm liking it. And I do like the stitch as well. The grit stitch is working out. Mm-hmm. So I think that's all pretty much what I've got to say. I've got these blocks here, and I'm just building on that until I have all 20 of them done. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. And we did get a comment asking how to use the yarn rings we were gifted last week, and how those are supposed to be used. Now, and if we could offer a tutorial.
Yes.
First off, these rings are very useful, especially probably primarily for beginners, or even people that just struggle with having the yarn cause wear marks into their fingers where it's painful, or
too tight of a tension,
or even possibly struggle with having too loose of tension. This offers a bit of like a medium ground.
Right.
Now, I would like to show everyone what my normal tension method is compared to how the ring could help offer a different alternative. Now, I've always done it where my two middlemost fingers, the string is normally between them like this, palm facing out. The string normally is going through my ring and pinky finger, and then through my my middle finger and my index finger. Because I normally, with my index finger, wrap the string around, and then with holding onto the string right here, underneath these two fingers, I hold the tension and I pull, and it drags across my index finger. It's normally how I crochet. With this method, the idea is that it can still go through your palm, or however you want to grip the yarn, because this hand, or whatever your other hand is, left or right, is meant to help guide and keep tension on the yarn,
yes,
not just hold up the project.
Yes.
Now, I realize that depending on whether you're left or right-handed, the way that the hook at the top of the ring would have to be facing the right way. I'm hopeful that this works for possibly even left-handed viewers, but I am right-handed, so my crochet hook is in my right hand, and so this ring would be put on my left hand. I'm putting it on my index finger because that's the finger I use the most when it comes to holding in my tension. I don't know if this would work for other people's fingers, but for me, this is where I'm putting it. I am now going to grip my yarn with my palm. I still have the option of doing it through my pinky and ring finger if I choose. But instead of bringing it up like this, I'm going to leave it down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you see that I'm going to actually bring the yarn underneath the head of the ring, and all of a sudden I'm feeding it through. I'm going to do that again. If you have a ring like mine, it's a peacock. But any ring, the hook, where the hook is, I am going to bring the yarn under the hook and then pull forward. And all of a sudden, how I am going to operate the tension, I'm going to bring it closer where I need it to be for me to be able to continue on, is, let me get pulled up here. All of a sudden, that ring is holding onto the yarn, and I just have to, as I go, let the ring
nice is that?
Hold and guide my yarn. And it will hold it for me right there without it hurting my finger. Now, you have to know exactly where you want it on your finger. So like I have mine slightly turned, but I could also have it right over my knuckle. You want a ring that's going to fit the best, and this one is kind of peculiar about its fitting because it has that gap in the middle. Back, it doesn't come full circle, so it's kind of pinching me. But when you find the right spot, you'll be able to find a way to be able to get it where it's guiding the string for you in a way that makes sense. So like it might face inward,
yeah,
it might stay right where it is, but you just pretty much feed it through the hook, and all of a sudden it's holding your tension, it's holding the string for you, it's helping guide the yarn.
And then now your finger won't have to be so affected.
Yep. It's not that your palm or however you grip the yarn isn't still in place, but the dominant finger that you use to normally hold the tension has a lot less pressure on it when you can feed it through the hook at the top, the yarn through the hook, and let that take the riding of the yarn for your finger. So that's how I have visually seen this done before. So again, I will do one more time. I have mine facing in right now, so this will help. I'm gripping my yarn through around my pinky because that's where it best fits. I put the yarn underneath the hook and let it then be caught by the hook. And then I use that to help guide the string through, keep
so
it
cool.
where it needs to be as it goes along.
Yeah, that is so cool.
So I hope that helps viewers that might have rings similar to this. I do believe you said it was Jane.
Jane was the one who commented.
Yep.
And Diane is the one who gave us the rings.
Right. So hopefully that helps you, Mrs. Erickson. But yeah, it's just pretty much, I would assume, as best as I understand, it goes under. You put the yarn underneath the hook so that it has a better grip and it has a better spot. But just don't be afraid to just feel like, because the visual aspect of the ring is on top, that wherever that hook needs to be to feel natural for how you crochet, let it be. Figure out what that looks like.
Right.
For us, what is the peacock is just the visualization of the decoration of this ring. But to be honest, it might not always be on top.
Right.
From just how it naturally wears, it could be on the side. It could end up going underneath. It could go on top, depending on where your tension is at that moment.
Right.
And how you're gripping onto the project, it might just move. But either way, just kind of fiddle with it. You have to kind of think about how you normally have the tension in on your hand compared to how the ring would have to be adapted into your crocheting habits.
It could actually be a fashion statement too. If you're out with your girlfriends and you just want an extra ring on, it
doubles.
It's a functional asset.
It's a functional, wearable hobby tool. I have to help with my children real quick. That are in the background that think it's funny to be in under our table.
Yeah. So little man decided to go underneath the table where we're filming, and he was bumping it, so I hope that wasn't too much of a jostle for you. We're just dealing with kids in the summertime, right? So trying to do this while they're still trying to be quiet for us. But yeah, this is it's what we do. We deal with littles and we crochet. And I don't know about you, but maybe that's what you're doing too, is, dealing with littles while you're doing your hobby. And it's sometimes a little distraction, but it's most of the time we wouldn't even notice that they were doing any of this stuff, but we're trying to film at the same time. So yep, I don't know. We're right in the middle of figuring out all of this stuff. We're supposed to go to a theme park in our state. We're going to Michigan Adventure on Sunday with the whole family. So my husband and I and our two sons, and then Sarah, two sons and their families, and Sarah and her family are all going on Sunday. And we're really looking forward to that. And they're going to get all their running out and their funness. They're going to have an overload of fun times. And we're waiting for that day. But until then, they are trying to stay still for us. And it's a struggle for a 3 and a 4-year-old. So here comes Sarah. She's back.
I am back.
So, do you want to talk about the the scripture now?
I was going to share what I've been working on first.
Oh yeah, I got myself a little lost, didn't I? Okay, yeah, Sarah's working on what?
Okay,
what are you working on?
So I don't really have a lot to show, but I would like to share how my craft has been throughout the week. I know what I want to do to finish those pillows, but I didn't make the time to sit down and just finish those projects because I ended up making my craft something that the kids could engage with this week. So Olivia got a headband, and just like one of those plastic headbands, but it had a whole bunch of stylish like circles that had holes in it to kind of like, you know, be decorative for a hairband. But I saw it as an opportunity to tie things to it. So I was like, Olivia, would you like me to make you flowers and then you can decorate your hairband?
Yeah.
She completely forgot to bring it today. But
Oh.
yes, I sat there and she told me what color she wanted me to crochet her flowers in, and she took the time to tie them on.
Wow.
And so it was one of those things where it was like an assembly line of like, here's a flower, here's a flower, here's a flower, and she's like, I got this one, I got this one, I got this one. And so it was one of those things where it was like,
Yeah.
I think that's the right way of
Yeah.
applicable craft.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel needed something too, so he wanted, we ended up making him a little turtle.
And it's so
And-
cute.
And let me tell you, that thing took me like maybe 20 minutes. Like that thing was
Really?
like, and that's why it's so, it's so simple. It's, you see all the tied ends. You see all the, it's not polished in
But he
any
doesn't
way.
care. He loves it.
But I did it on the spot. I was like, okay, this general shape, this general shape, okay, that's gonna have to work. Oh, I need to make a hat. Oh, I gotta make fins. And I did it. And then we were assembling it together. Like, I was like, okay, here's now the shell all made up. And he's like, he's running around with the shell. I'm getting ready to get in the head stuff and sewing that on. Look at that, now it's a body. Oh, what does it need? Something in these legs. Okay, so let's make the fins. And then we got it together. And he's like, you made a turtle. And so I am kind of...
so cool.
And another thing that I plan to do is I plan to make books with them. So the idea is that I'm going to be folding paper in half and a whole, like a stack of paper in half, and like poke holes through the side that's folded down. And I want to use the yarn to sew the
Yes.
binding,
Yes.
so that they can choose their own color yarn.
They're so cool.
And I want to take them on, I want to start making like these fun charts where I can either get them laminated or just use some packing tape and laminate the paper. But I want to get like right on the sheet things to find on our walk so that they can check mark off things that they can find off on the walk while we're going for a walk, and maybe even have like little crocheted items that could be
It's okay.
you know, just like maybe like a little like crocheted acorn or something that could be a part of their walk kit where they could see, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how I'm doing everything, but I'm trying to apply the idea of craft time and what mommy does for a craft and how they could be a part of it, or just bringing yarn in general into their crafting.
Yeah.
Much more of like a, this is what we're doing. And
this
I
is
want
how we
to,
can fix
and I
things.
want to teach them how to sew by
Yeah.
making the binding, because on paper that's going to be much easier, and things like that, where it's like a skill where they can be able to show off what they've made.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of different ways to be able to do things
And
like
if you
that.
have blunt needles or even the plastic ones,
Well, I was thinking about the darning hooks that you even just...
that's what I was saying. It's not sharp. So these blunt darning needles would be perfect for that, actually. And another idea is have them bring the paper book with you and have them draw what they see. They could do that as a nature journal. So just never know what you can find to do.
Do not keep running around, you're going to distract your brother.
But Did you hear that idea? So they could, you could bring that paper book with you and a crayon or a pencil and have them draw stuff on their walk and be a nature journal.
That was my original idea, is make several of them with different themes. One that could be like, I don't know, one could be them writing down their favorite foods.
Yeah.
So that when I'm asking what they want for dinner, they can kind of have their own recipe book where they can say, like, I liked it when you made this, Mommy, or something like that. Kind of like a journal, but for different areas of their life right now, because their life is very much distraction.
Squirrel.
That maybe having it be themed might be a little bit easier for them. I was originally going to do the idea of them drawing it out, but they don't always know how to draw shapes.
Yeah.
So the idea was that for me to have the shapes already drawn of the things I'm asking them to find and check it off as a checklist would make the walks more engageable.
Yeah. That'd be so fun.
But my idea was to possibly do this craft outside.
Yeah.
May have them maybe walk to our park inside of where we live, and sit down and have them do this outside. Maybe color while we have a picnic, and be at and all that sort of stuff. Because the other day we took a walk and we went to the playground, and we had it was just some good town time with me and the kids. And so there's this thing of, I want to start having regular craft time to have them problem solve and create and start adapting their skills and maybe pushing their brains in that way.
And seeing how everything works together.
Yes. Because hobbies like this can be very versatile for a learning and sensory and like problem solving and learning other skills. So like planting and science and all these different things. So I wasn't able to get those pillows done this week, or I didn't get to them, but the things I did make this week, which I had been hopeful to be able to show you guys, but I don't have them right now with me, are still things I'm very happy that I was able to do with the kids. And I'm hoping to be able to have maybe possibly more moments of these sort of things to share over this summer while I have both of them home at the same time. Because when there's a possibility that even my little boy is going to possibly be going to some sort of school setting in the fall, so there's a lot that could change by school time. And we might not have pampering feet in the background of our videos anymore. Both a good and a bad thing. Well, not bad, just more of a don't always realize what you miss. But it's all good. It might make it less chaotic, and that's okay too. You miss the chaos sometimes. It's a weird thing. But yes, to our verse.
Today it is, He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That's found in Micah 6, verse 8. He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. I love that. We already know that God is good. He has done far more than we can ever thank Him for. Every single day we wake up is another day that, He's been good to us. And what He's asking of us, what does the Lord require of you? He's asking three things. To do justly, to do just towards other people, to love mercy, to give other people what we would hope they would give us also, mercy, and to walk humbly with your God, to make sure God is foremost in your life and that you're humble walking with Him. That's all He's asking. I just think that's really, really cool. And I know that Sarah's been looking up some of the background of this verse, and it's very interesting too.
So my hope had been to have a little bit more than what I have. I did a very, very simplistic study, typing into the internet what and who Micah was. And Micah was one of the lower prophets from what I can tell. And there is suspicion that he might have been from a very lower class family, or a lower class citizen, and this is a very good possibility because if I do believe this is correct, he does not tell his lineage. And normally when you don't tell your lineage, like who your dad is or your family is, and you're only knowing yourself by maybe your tribe, like just him saying that he's from whatever tribe or city that he is from, it is kind of a show that maybe his family might not have been so well off. And that offered a very interesting perspective for being a prophet in this time period and what was going on during this time period. And because a lot of people that know a lot about Micah know that if we look through his prophecy through this lens, it's kind of easier to read the fact that he's kind of talking to the upper class citizens, being like, come on guys, like really think about how your decisions come down and affect everybody. And when we read here in Micah 6:8, he has shown you, oh man, what is good. And what does that and what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? It's a question. I want to make that very clear that that is a question, meaning that he's kind of making it rhetorical. This should be, if I'm reading into this verse correctly, it feels like he's speaking in a way where it's like, you should know this.
Yeah, you should already know this.
With some of the ways that the city was being produced at the time period, it was being funded in very not so great means, very much profiting off of gaining money in ways that was not exactly considered okay by Israel's God. And that was something he was kind of calling people out on, like, come on, don't, like, if we know that our God doesn't like this,
right,
and he has made it very clear to us, then why are we operating in these means? Right. Hold yourselves accountable, ask God for forgiveness, and then do what it takes to repent and possibly see if we don't have any sort of uproar here with our relation, or any sort of issues with our God. And all I know is that reading into this verse, like even with what you said, this verse being read just as a verse is just, he has shown you, oh man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And if we take from what this verse just says, what my mom just said is quite one way to look at it. I think the one thing is just that I'm wondering who he's talking to sometimes. Like when we're talking to when we're thinking about these prophets, we're thinking about the political things, the social things, the historical things, what was it about this time and what was being told to him that he felt that he had a message from God to speak to his people about, that was supposed to be a wake-up call.
Right.
And this verse seems to represent quite a bit of what he was saying. Like, come on, we're not doing it the right way. We know we're not. And this is just throwing everything out of whack. And we know what our God has told us not to do. And it's going to cause it's going to cause a problem. And if I did read what Wikipedia said, what he did say did come to pass before he, the next prophet did started their journey in this area. They were able to be like, hey, look at Micah was right.
Right.
And that's very important for the prophets. For as much as we look at prophets today as like a, hey, this is a, if you believe in prophets in modern day, it's one of those things where it's like we in our time period look at the prophets as, hey, if they're giving us a bad warning, we're going to want to try to come against that possible outcome by trying to change so that doesn't happen. In this time period, it was either it happens and proves the prophet right, and then he was actually hearing something from the all-knowing God that they needed to know and chose not to listen, or it was that the society deemed that prophet to not be true and considered possibly false or not real, and they would be, from what I understand, executed. So this is one of those things that being a prophet in this time meant something. And so for it to come true, even if it wasn't what people wanted to hear or wanted to know, because you think about that, like, you don't want the city to fall. You don't want these things to happen, right. But at the same time, it's a very interesting idea of, like, I'm sure these people, these prophets, don't want to say, hey, this is going to happen.
Right.
Have it happen to be able to not have themselves get into trouble. While also saying they're being like, you could just do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But wondering, I'm just thinking from my modern lens, I don't know what this looked like for them fully, but wondering if them doing the right thing and things turning around for the better, does that take away the full prophecy, or is that still part of it? Right. Please do the right thing, repent, turn from your wicked ways so that we are not doing this the wrong way. Right. It's just a question going on in my head, because if they do the right thing and the bad thing doesn't happen, does that make the prophet uncredible?
Right.
I don't know. It's something I really want to understand for the prophets, because I can't imagine they really wanted all the bad things that they had to sometimes preach to happen.
Right.
So that's
yeah.
But I know that that's something I did learn most of the time with prophecies. It had to happen in their lifetime for it to be proven whether they were true or not. And for it not to happen, it's not a great thing for them. So,
right.
But just from a perspective, when you read the Bible, really do think about the time period in which these people lived and what that experience was for them, for how they wrote and interacted with God, the people around them, and all these different things, because it's different than the modern age, and that creates context that can really inform our ability to read and interpret the Bible. I know I'm very excited because I have some books that I'm really excited to read, and it's about church history and from where we left off at Jesus to the modern day church, and how the church even grew and became what we know it to be in the history of Christianity from Jesus. And I got Church History in Plain English by Bruce Shelley. I saw good reviews on this one, but I also bought, and this is only one half of it, but Church History from Christ to Pre-Reformation. And this is from Everett Ferguson. And then I do know that the second volume to this, where it goes from pre-Reformation to, I think it's modern time, or a very specific time, like I think like maybe like into the 21st century, where it's like in the 1900s or whatever. I think it's written by two other people from what I understand, these might be much more like, these are written by very specifics, either professors or Bible scholars, so they might have done it together in a collection, whereas this is considered like a more or less version of just reading it as a whole, whereas this might be broken down more. But they have maps and they have a whole entire study of how this affected and how things changed politically and influencing things and all that sort of context that we don't always kind of take into I know that I personally for a very long time did not think about when reading the Bible. Sometimes you just think about it as a, this happened, but what can I take from it? And now I'm approaching the Bible as a, why did they say what they say from what they experienced? And what can I learn from their experience and how they viewed their experiences? I like context. Now I want to know the backstory. I want to know the setting. I want to know the era. I want to know the political and the social stuff and how everything worked. And it's been a very interesting journey. So I hope that maybe this would be making our verse time a little bit more enlightening.
Yeah, I like knowing the backstory anyway.
So that's the very little bit that I know about Micah. If what Wikipedia said about him was true, I was hoping to be able to read from a study Bible that I thought I was going to be able to get my hands on, but didn't have the time to. But maybe I will have the opportunity of looking at this at a different time if we wake up another verse from Micah. So
there you go. Yeah,
that is what it is. So as always, we hope that you guys enjoyed what we had to share with you guys today and that you got something out of it. We really are grateful for these crochet rings, and I'm grateful that the new blocking technique is helping you.
Yes,
and
it is.
hopefully, maybe we'll have a little bit more to share yarn-wise, but for what it is, I think we had a really good episode. For any of you that stayed to the end, excuse me, I feel like I just burped. I know, I just burped. Talking too much. For those who stuck around to the end, thank you for sticking with us to here, and we hope that you stitch your way
To mental health.